Hey guys, thank you for joining me for another devotional video. I've often been using devotionals based on books, but this time I'm going to give you a different resource. It's online. They have videos, podcasts, all sorts of resources. It's called the Bible Project, and you can find them at thebibleproject.com. They have a podcast called The Bible Project, and uh, in their podcast, they have been going through how to read the Bible, and they talk about the different genres of biblical books. So you've got the Gospels, that's a certain type of book, prophets, poetry, histories. They just did a series on the parables, and now they're moving to what are called apocalypses. And they mentioned it was extremely fitting, and I thought their words were great to connect a few different ideas. Um, because on the one hand, there are a lot of people who are talking about the coronavirus pandemic as the end of the world. Um, it is apocalyptic, especially when you join the coronavirus with the locust plagues in Africa and with the wildfire in Australia, all of which has just recently happened. A lot of people are talking about this as apocalyptic, meaning that this is the end of the world. Um, that it looks like this is when all the world's just falling apart. And uh, it's really interesting because there are times where the Bible points to the end of creation as we see it now with language that is apocalyptic. And we see things about like this final judgment, and we hear about plagues that are passing and these horrible events that are going to take place, and we hear that at that point Jesus is going to return. And in our current mindset, a lot of Christians believe that this is this ultimate great destruction, and all of creation as we know it is just wiped out. In a lot of ways, though, that's not quite accurate. When you get to the end of Revelation, it's not that things are wiped out and there's nothing physical left and we're just spiritual. The Bible's pretty clear. God created our bodies as good things, and we do a whole lot of awful things to them, but the physical world is good according to the Bible. And at the end of Revelation, it's not that creation gets wiped out. You see the heavenly Jerusalem come down to earth. That it's not so much that our current creation is completely wiped out and there's nothing left, but that it's completely redone, that God becomes so fully present in the world that everything gets transformed. And yes, the Bible is certainly clear that there are a lot of great cataclysms that happen before that comes, but the Bible talks about it as birth pains, that there's this great pain and struggle for the new creation to come forth, instead of this is God's act of wiping it out. But the Bible Project and the two main faces of the Bible Project are two guys named John and Tim. And they know that the phrase apocalypse comes from a Greek term that doesn't talk about the end of the world. It talks about a revealing. Something that was unknown, that was kind of hidden, is being revealed. And that's why the book of Revelation, it says this is a revelation of Jesus Christ. Well, it says it's an apocalypse of Jesus Christ. It is that Jesus is showing us something that's true about himself that we didn't know previously. There are apocalyptic parables that demonstrate a truth about who God is. A lot of the book of Daniel is apocalyptic in that we see who God is and how God is at work in that history before the history unfolds. There's a lot of this kind of apocalypse language, and sometimes we get caught up in looking at current events and we forget Jesus said we will not know the hour or the day. There's not going to be someone who says, yes, I know it's going to be this date. And we've experienced this a lot. We're able to hear more about it now, but Jesus was very clear that no one knows. It's not that, if you can decipher the code properly, you will know. No one knows the day or the hour. But the fact that an apocalypse is a revealing tells me that we're not entirely wrong to categorize the coronavirus pandemic, to categorize these types of moments as apocalyptic. Just not in the way that we think of it. So we think of apocalyptic as it seems like the world's ending. And there are things that are going to change, but the world isn't ending. What we can say is apocalyptic about these moments is that they reveal something to us. The coronavirus pandemic, having everything shut down, these moments when we're faced with our mortality in a way that we aren't otherwise, they reveal something to us. They reveal truths to us about who we are, about our real state, who we are as people, and how we're doing emotionally and physically, and how our habits are shaping us. If you didn't have very good, firmly entrenched habits before this happened, it is hard to start getting better habits. You learn more about how world systems do or don't function properly. We are seeing who is more essential in the workforce and who maybe isn't, how technology is enabling us to work more effectively in less time, how the medical profession has things to sort out and how vital they are to our sustaining ourselves in the long run, how a lot of systems just aren't functioning how they should. And during normal times, we can mask those things, but this is apocalyptic in that it's revealing how really bad some of it is. There's going to be a tendency right now for us to turn to the book of Revelation as an apocalypse and say, oh, is the world ending? What's going to be happening? What's happening next? The truth is, and a lot of Christians have noted this over time, the prophecies about when the times will end have fulfilled themselves over and over and over again in history. There have been eclipses and blood moons and wars and famines and plagues throughout history. And it is always tempting, it is very tempting for us to take that on as this means it's happening to us now. But instead of looking at it that way, there is something we can learn from the apocalyptic literature in the Bible, from the book of Revelation in particular. Because the book of Revelation demonstrates how much God cares for those who are suffering. It's in Revelation that we hear that God holds every tear in his hand, that we hear that God will wipe away every tear from their eyes, that there will be no more crying and no more suffering and no more pain, that we see those who have suffered and who have died held close to God. We find that in the book of Revelation. And we find in the book of Revelation a God who isn't necessarily causing everything wrong to happen, but who is ultimately able to bring all of that to good, and who desires to be with us and who will eventually end all suffering and pain. That is what the book of Revelation can help to teach us. And I hope that as we go through these difficult times, we keep that in mind and we examine ourselves. We use this as a time to see what is being revealed about ourselves. Are we who we should be? Do we have the habits that we should have? What habits do we need so that we can address some of the problems that we are seeing in ourselves? As the Bible Project very helpfully pointed out to me recently, it's not wrong to say that we're living in apocalyptic times. But apocalypse doesn't quite mean what we think it means. So let's use this apocalypse to truly reveal something about ourselves and about God. God bless you guys. Take care.